Hello there, everyone. Good morning. Dean here. Hope everybody is doing fantastic. Hit me up with a quick comment. Let me know you can see me and hear me okay. And introduce yourself as well. Gonna get this session started in a couple of minutes. I'm just gonna check at my end that the notification went out. And introduce yourself in the comments, folks. Exciting session today. I have a special guest for my Tech Talk series, who I'm gonna introduce shortly. But don't be shy. Introduce yourself in the comments. Love to hear from everybody, wherever you are, whatever your location is. Introduce yourself in the comments. Great networking opportunity. And today's session is going to be about digital transformations and the gig economy. If you're very interested in this area, or you're curious to hear more, you want to learn more about this, the digital transformation projects as well as the gig economy and what a gig worker is. Today is definitely a session you want to tune into. I have a fantastic guest joining in shortly, all right? So introduce yourself in the comments, say hi. Let us know who you are, what you do, where you're tuning in from. And, feel free to go ahead and get that started, all right? I just have a couple of things I'm checking on here before we get started. Other than that, for those of you tuning in who are job seekers, just to give you a heads up, if this is your first time, not just job seekers, but also those of you with an interest in tech, my name is Dean Kulaweera, and welcome to my Tech Talk series. I come from an IT recruitment background. I've been working in recruitment for 8+ years. I've worked at small-sized agencies all the way to large-size, multinational agencies as well, and I've recruited on positions in IT ranging from the technical roles to the non-technical roles. Variety of different types of organizations, from startups all the way to large-sized companies, and recently made a transition into job search coaching, primarily for IT professionals. But that is my primary mandate right now. And every week on Wednesdays, I do a job search tips live stream. So if you're a job seeker, make sure you mark your calendar. Feel free to tune in on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. I'm here live. So you can check that out. I talk about various job search topics and tips to help you out in your job search. And for those of you with an interest in tech or technology or IT, I have this Tech Talk series, which I usually do on Thursdays. Might change here and there, but it's a series where I invite professionals and experts from the IT and information technology and the tech space to come in and talk about various topics, trends, challenges, best practices, career advice, from individuals in the tech sector, right? So feel free to introduce yourself in the comments. Don't be shy. Great opportunity for all of you to network with each other. And I'm going to bring out my guest shortly. So today's guest is none other than Rakesh Desaigoudar. So Rakesh and I connected, when me being a recruiter and him being a job seeker at that time. And this is another I guess example of how important it is to keep in touch with and build those relationships with people that you meet right during your job search, or even outside of your job search as well, on LinkedIn and all these various platforms. So just to give you a quick brief overview of Rakesh before I bring him on is, so Rakesh is the founder, sales and delivery executive of Digital HouseFly Inc. Rakesh has led major digital transition and transformation initiatives for medium and large clients over the last 20 years. Prior to Digital HouseFly, Rakesh worked for a large company helping clients introduce new solutions and improve digital capability. Digital HouseFly is a digital transformation company. They provide custom application development using modern digital technologies, such as cloud-native development, microservices, and such. Digital HouseFly launched GigiWorker.com, which, by the way, Rakesh is going to let us know more about later in today's segment, which is a platform for gig economy workers in September 2020. It is gaining recognition from large and medium-sized companies. Gigi workers are signing up on the platform for finding and securing gig work. To learn more, you can visit www.gigiworker.com and sign up for free. Again, Rakesh will be talking more about this later in this segment. I'm definitely going to have him speak about his venture here and the platform, so you folks can learn more. But without further ado, let me bring Rakesh on right now, and make sure, folks, you give Rakesh a warm welcome as well. And also, as we're going through today's segment, feel free to put any questions you have for Rakesh about digital transformations, digital transformation projects, what he's noticing in the market, as well as the gig economy, gig work, and all that stuff. So, Rakesh, thank you so much for your time and welcome to today's show. Really, really a pleasure to have you on here.
Hey, Dean, thank you very much for having me on your DK channel. This is an amazing work that you're doing. I've watched some of your sessions in the past, and I believe they're truly inspirational to many of them. Warm welcome to everyone and a happy new year. I'm super excited to be here and to share some of my experiences on digital transformation and what to expect in terms of the trends for gig independent contractor workers going forward between 2021 and 2027. And once again, Dean, thank you so much for having me and putting this together.
Awesome, fantastic, Rakesh, and thanks so much for that intro. And it's just been great keeping in touch with you. I know we first spoke, I think it was a year or 2 years ago or something, but we definitely kept in touch. And it's just great to see that you're doing great. You're doing some amazing things, and definitely looking forward to learning more from you from this session. So if we can get right into it, Rakesh, I guess my first question for you is, now when we last spoke, you mentioned a trend that you're noticing, right? In regards to companies rethinking how they're approaching hiring and staffing and reducing staff and that kind of thing. Can you expand a bit more, Rakesh, on that and let us know what's happening in the current environment that we are in?
Absolutely, and I echo your message there. Networking is highly important in this scenario, and especially when people start to work more from home. This is going to be more and more important. So I'm glad I'm in touch and you're in touch with me. So that's amazing. Now let me take a few more minutes because it seems like a loaded question. For a
Right.
second, if we were to look at humans' ability to redefine and bounce back in the times of crisis, humans have always been upfront and willing to change and come better and faster in the midst of crisis. And the one that we went through in the last year, 2020, was no different. If you look at the adoption of working from home and studying from home, we had over 80-90% of the population went, especially in the IT sector, went to work from home. Uh, while Cisco back in the 2000 had these technologies and they were no takers. The companies didn't have the enough trust to put on the employees to work from home and so on. So the the adoption of working from home between 2000 to 2019 was in a couple of percentages, but all of a sudden a crisis came, and there we saw an adoption going all the way up to the roof, up to 90% or so.
Hmm.
So, in essence, man's mind is one of the fastest instrument in the universe,
Yeah.
and we can do some greater things. And other factor is we were heavily localized economies. If you go back about 100 years back or so, and then we adopted globalization, and in some ways we're moving back to semi-localization.
Okay.
So this going back and forth is going to create tremendous energy and opportunities and jobs for especially IT workers, but more so for other industries as well. Um, Now,
Right.
a good example of this would be Facebook. When European Union introduced GDPR back in 2018, a lot of the IT companies who were doing business in EU had to readjust and comply with the law and ensure that the data does not leave the European boundaries. So
Hmm.
that's one example of how you go from a local globalization to localization, right? Very fast, very rapid, and the IT stands behind it and gets it executed.
That's right.
Now, more importantly, the trend that to expect in the next 7 years between 2020 to 2021 to 2027 is more and more gig jobs are going to be created. Now, this is substantiated by a World Economic Forum report. They went to about 500 companies back in 2020 and talked to the leaders and board members of these 500 companies in various countries and various sectors to understand what their next 7-year plan is. in
Yeah.
terms of staffing and hiring and digital transformation. And I'll touch upon some of the key findings. Some of them were more so important for us here in North America. Is 41% of those companies, which are representative of the entire um, entire Earth, is they're planning to hire more and more gig workers, the temporary contract workers, and 40% or so of their existing employees need some sort of new skills.
Right.
So if you add those two numbers, and if you see the entire organization, with an exception of 10 to 20% of the people, the entire mix of the employee mix is going to be refreshed in each and every company. So that creates a tremendous opportunity if you're in the job market, or if you're looking to transition from some other field back into IT. So that provides a tremendous amount of opportunity. And trend two, if you narrow down to just US and Canada, the growth expected in the gig economy and the gig opportunities is around 15% to 17%. This is a research done by Stanford and one of the company in the US
Right.
who went about talking to many large companies here in Canada and in America. And what that means is between now and 2027, uh, the employee mix of most of the companies will be reflective of mostly gig workers and substantially less permanent employees.
Oh, interesting.
They're predicting 60% of the workforce is going to be made up of gig workers and 40%
Wow.
made up of permanent employees. So if you take these two researches, one from the World Economic Forum and one from an American one, you are looking anywhere between 40% adoption to 60% adoption.
Hmm.
In terms of what kind of skills are going to be needed, again the same two reports highlight roles such as data scientist, machine learning specialist, cloud specialist, RPA specialist, security specialist. All these are in demand and will continue to be in demand going forward. In terms of the methodology, agile is here to stay, while projectized companies are going to be far and far less going forward. And in terms of workability, people are going to work all across the world. So you could be sitting in Canada and working on a South American project, and
Right.
vice versa. So more and more such opportunities are going to be available for Canadians and Americans, and and other resources in the world as well. And I'll touch upon the last key findings from these reports. Modernization of IT and digital transformation are going to continue to be at the top priority of all companies. There are going to be more investments in these technologies, than the other, brick and mortar kind of investments.
Hmm.
What to expect in terms of interview question, I'll just throw it out there. More and more, as people are going to work from home, the hiring managers are going to throw at, if you're looking and you're in the job market, they're going to ask your experiences working from home. So expect questions like, have you worked from home? What are some of the lessons you have learned working from home? What are some of the tools that make you effective worker working from home? So all these are some of the trends in IT staffing and recruitment, it's going to be an exciting phase where more and more collaboration is going to be done virtually.
Awesome, fantastic, Rakesh. Thanks. So, I mean, those were some great, very, very insightful stats you shared, and clearly there are changes occurring in the marketplace. I mean, those that stat you mentioned about 60% of the workforce is going to be gig workers. That is quite a significant shift, right? From full time permanent workers. So. Some fantastic stats here. Just a shout out here, we got Arjun. He says Arjun said he's tuning in from Paris. Awesome, thanks for tuning in, Arjun. Arjun says your podcast is very helpful. Appreciate that, Arjun. Good to have you here, and thanks so much for tuning in. We got Elham in the house. Elham, good to see you as always. Thanks so much for tuning in. Keep the comments coming, folks, and any questions you have for Rakesh, we're going to get to the questions after we get through the discussion. All right, so keep the comments and the questions coming in. So let's talk a bit about digital transformations, Rakesh. You kind of already discussed it, but can you let the viewers know more about this apparent increase in digital transformation projects?
Absolutely. This is a hot topic, and it's in every company's. It makes it to the top in every company. If it's not done, the company doesn't seem to exist these days. So,
Actually, Rakesh, if I can quickly interject, sorry to interrupt you, but just in case for any of the viewers who are not aware what is a digital transformation project, can you briefly define that as well?
for sure, for sure. So, a simple definition of a digital transformation is using digital technologies to enhance customer experiences, improve the operational processes, and also change the business model. So this is sort of a global acceptance of what a digital transformation. This was coined by MIT and one other consulting company back in 2011. And it was not that we didn't do digital transformation prior to 2011, but it got formalized around that time frame.
Okay.
Now, to put it in a layman's perspective, what a digital transformation is all about. If you look at, and let me share a roadmap of a bank. If they looked at digital transformation and how they began, 20, 25 years ago. If you were to walk into a branch, let's say 30 years ago, well, if you had to check your balance, you had to go to the branch. You had to stand up in a line, wait for your turn, and the teller looks at your a piece of ID, looks at her ledger to find your account, and or computer at that time. Some banks had computers, some other countries did not have. They had the ledger, and then she would handwrite your balance or give you a printout. And then 2000 came, the internet and other technologies that introduced. The first step in that bank's roadmap was to have an internet presence with a basic website. The stage two was, now let's open up where people can start looking at their statements online. The adoption between 2000 to 2006 was not that great. People still felt comfortable walking to the branch and so on. Very few, daring folks went online to check their balances. And around 2010 or probably 2008, 9-ish, when mobile phones became smartphones, all of a sudden, this all opened up fantastic opportunities for the banks and the rest of the community to go online full speed. So that's where banks started introducing mobile apps for checking your balance and do most of your basic banking. Now, 2010 to 2013, banks introduced more and more self-service initiatives. Not that they didn't want you coming to the branch, but they wanted you to have the ability to check your balance and do all the basic banking online and wherever you are. You could be sitting in Timbuktu and checking your bank balances and do trading and so on and so forth. So it has matured to a state where most of the basic banking is all done, and it's available now on cross-platform. So it's available on mobile phones and web application and so on and so forth. Now, what is the next step in that roadmap? Is you'll see more and more sort of automation and robots creeping into your branches. Wherein if you walked into a branch, you'll be surprised to be greeted by a robot says, "Hello, Dean, welcome, and how's your day going?"
Yeah.
And on the mobile platform too, you will get much more insights because there's a lot of data mining that is happening. They'll help you make certain choices much more intelligently. So that's what the roadmap looks from a basic banking perspective. So that's just to give one example of one sector. Now, there are obviously leaders and laggers. Uh, Financials and insurance companies and telecom companies in that mix are the leaders. They are the digital masters. They will try every new technology that comes into the market. In a way, that's a good thing for IT workers because they want to test what works and they want to be the leaders in digital adoption, and they look for enhancing customer experiences continuously. They don't give up.
Right.
Some of the laggards are, this is where most of the opportunities will be in the future. And the laggards are, and from the bottom up, are the manufacturing, the pharmaceutical, the utility companies, and government agencies as well. They're all looking to invest heavily into digital transformation and technologies as more and more robotic automation is going to kick in. You'll see more and more manufacturing coming back to North America with an introduction of robots and man working together to produce products.
Interesting. Wow. Wow. Really exciting. I mean, that sounds really exciting.
Now, if I can just touch upon a few more things on digital transformation, as it is a large topic. To give another two examples of what a digital leader looks like and a laggard looks like. If you were a customer of Burberry and you walk into, some of their stores have this, and you want to try on their jacket, they have these monitors where you can select a jacket and virtual reality, they call it augmented reality, will show you how that jacket looks on you to help you make that purchase.
Oh, I've heard of this. Yeah. Okay.
So you don't have to go into a dressing room and do all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be introduced similar kind online as well. And these kind of technologies are going to be more and more upfront in the retail space. Lee Shadow, which filed a bankruptcy last year, although I believe it was a great company, it is still a great company, but they didn't have a great digital transformation strategy. Their strategy was pretty simple: have a e-commerce website, have a emailing a promotion emailing system, and customers are going to buy your products online. Obviously, that didn't work. So the companies that continuously work on their digital strategy and improve their execution on digital technologies will survive, and others will have to step back. Technologies that are involved in digital transformation, it's a huge list and it's a growing list. Every big company want to have their own ecosystem, so they offer a number of things as open source, so they can make you part of their ecosystem. And there will be more and more of these. You probably heard on many shows as well, technologies such as cloud implementations, RPA implementations, and many other technologies are out there. I can go through if anybody's interested in terms of the technologies, but all those technologies are there to enable companies to look at improving customer experiences at the end of the day.
Fantastic. I mean, there. From what you're saying, Rakesh, I mean, there's just seems to be like endless possibilities and opportunities within digital transformation projects. It's not just like one or two things. I mean, this is a wide range of avenues within this space. So I mean, it's really exciting. Now, kind of moving on, Rakesh. Now, I know you previously mentioned the term gig worker and the gig economy. So if we can chat a bit more about that. So what is a gig worker and what is the gig economy?
For sure. A gig worker is someone who's independent, self-employed, and paid by different companies at different times, right? And gig worker is also referred to in many different terms. Some call them as temporary workers, on-demand workers, contract workers, on-call workers, and in the U.S. they're referred to as 1099 worker.
Oh, okay, okay.
And if you look at other sectors, they're also known as freelancers, right? But we'll keep the definitions for IT for now. uh,
Okay.
so typically, a gig worker engages in a contract that is anywhere between 3 months to 12 months.
Mhm.
And that's what we've seen in the Canadian context is most of the employers are looking to offer 6 months contract and then extended up to 2 years. Some companies have these imaginary number of limiting contractors to be with them for 2 years, and then take a break of 3 months and then come back if opportunities are there. And some companies don't have that. So you've seen some contractors working for a company for 7 years, 10 years, and they're still doing great. Now, in terms of financial benefits, obviously, uh, gig workers make about 1.5 to 2 times the permanent employee makes, because
Wow.
they have to look after themselves in the downtimes, and also pay for insurance and other costs. Um, and examples of where gig consultants are needed, they're needed across the board. Project managers and product managers are in a big way with the banks right now. Developers, all kinds of developers, whether it is COBOL developer, machine learning, and so on, all are in demand, and all are accepting gig workers in that space. On the data side, of course, there's a tremendous amount of shortage at the moment. There's a lot of work, there's a lot of data, and there's a lot of work to be done with data, but there are not enough data scientists. So a lot of the analysts should be transitioning into these roles by taking certifications and so on, and getting their step into the data science world. So in terms of the gig economy, it is a free and open market system where service provider and service receiver get into a flexible and temporary work arrangement. And presently, around 10% of the companies in Canada and America employ gig workers. The rest of the 90% is made up of permanent employees. Um, as I mentioned earlier, this number is about to change, and it may go slow in the next year or two, but then as the working from home becomes more and more matured, there's no reason for companies to go beyond that and start offering gig opportunities for their employee base and for the people in the market. So that gig economy is expected to grow tremendously. And as I mentioned on my earlier responses, that this economy is bound to grow tremendously in the next 7 years.
That's fantastic. And it's so interesting to see the way things change and adapt. Now, before I get to my next question, Rakesh, I have a great question here from Arjun. So, Arjun, thanks for your question. So, Arjun's asking, according to you, what are the main challenges with digital transformation projects, especially with increased use of AI technologies for data collection and personalization efforts?
That's a great question, Arjun. In terms of challenges, um, there are multiple challenges, and the challenges are unique to organization and sector and their capability, right? But if I were to summarize all those challenges that each of these companies, and try to bring up one or two or three of them, would be first is the vision. Companies seem to know what their vision and what they want to achieve in terms of digital transformation is concerned, but it does get muddied up and messed up because of so many uh, contrasting views. they don't tend to have a great roadmap. So I always tell my customers is to take your time and build a solid roadmap, that one which is supported by technologists as well as business folks. If you don't bring both of these teams together and develop your digital transformation, you will tend to lean on one or the other side. So if you listen to business folks and build a digital transformation roadmap, your technology team may not be able to enable it the way you are envisioning, and vice versa. And the worst thing is you lean too much on the technologies and drive your digital strategy. So bring the two teams together to make a solid strategic plan. Number one. Number two is a lot of them uh, have plans, but they fail on execution. So there are tremendous execution challenges due to various reasons, right? It could be a lack of resources, lack of leadership, lack of communication of the vision, etc. Right? So all these again will need a constant energy behind implementation of your strategy, and the leadership that owns and the leadership that helps the employees grow and be that show that agility mindset are the ones that are going to win. For example, a bank wanted to introduce a product, and they were super excited, but they were running off in one direction. It's great, but if they didn't see what's happening around them, what are the other banks doing? How can I change course? What is the experiences of customers upon my first release? Was there adoption? Was there concerns or uneasiness, etc.? Taking all of that feedback and putting back those changes in your next releases will help you course correct.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah. Thanks for that, Rakesh. And Arjun, hope that answers your question. Fantastic question. Folks, feel free to put in your questions. Rakesh is here to answer your questions about digital transformations or the gig worker, gig economy as well. So thanks again, Arjun, and thanks, Rakesh, for that great response to Arjun's question. So speaking about gig work, Rakesh. Now, why are I know you mentioned, of course, the financial aspects are very, very lucrative and very attractive for the gig work. But what are some other reasons why you feel IT professionals might be making the transition into gig work? And on the flip side, what do you think are some reasons why some might be more resistant to it as well?
Well, this goes back when we introduced a corporate ladder structure,
Right.
back in the 17th century or so. And we haven't changed much. And some organizations think they have changed a lot. And it has a reference to one of the ancient game called Snakes and Ladder.
Oh, yes, yes.
uh, the corporations at the time left the first word, but they adopted the second word called ladder.
Yeah.
And it was done for a purpose to ensure that as they get employees onto their business, is to ensure there are checks and balances, and the ones that are performing well will eventually make it through the leadership ladder. But the other side of that game still existed, which is, there are bulldozers in the organizations, there are naysayers, and so on. And most of the employees will have to navigate through this system to be able to make it to the ladder. Some love the excitement the opportunities provide, and they understand the structure, the ladder, the expectations, and they maneuver the system to get to the title that they're looking for, and that's fantastic. Some are not in that they don't find it fun for them.
Yeah, yeah.
They prefer, for example, the gig workers prefer, uh, they want to focus more on the work, actual work, than office politics. They are more interested in relationships, and they're not interested in titles, but they are more interested in working for the benefit of the clients. They're much more focused individuals who are there to contribute to make things happen for an organization. Um, you'll hardly find gig workers who are not productive. They understand the seriousness of the job. They come in quickly. They want to understand the customer's need, vision, and expectation, and they strive very hard to meet their goals and objectives. Uh, so, the world has continued to have both these acceptors and resistors, and it's okay. In the end game is we all have to work towards making and meeting organizational goals. And I believe gig workers are much more matured in that aspect, who avoid some of the other side of things and focus on what's important to the organization.
Okay, fantastic. So I mean, from what you're saying, Rakesh, obviously there's a few things that make gig work attractive, and you mentioned the financial aspects. You know, gig workers make 1.5 to 2 times more than the full time employees, and you mentioned that, hey, if you're someone who just wants to go in, focus on the relationships, build the relationships, no office politics, none of that. Gig work might be something that might be very attractive for such individuals with those kind of requirements in their next role, I guess. Fantastic, fantastic. And we got a shout out here for you, Rakesh, from Arjun. Arjun says, "Thanks, Rakesh, for a great response for the question he asked." So happy to hear that, Arjun. Thanks for your feedback. So Rakesh, now can you and you have shared, of course, a lot of the pros in regards to being a gig worker. Can you share some of the the not just the pros but also the cons of being a gig worker? Like, who is gig work not for?
Uh, Absolutely. Today, the work culture is, if you have a permanent job, you're secured. You don't have to worry about, going back to work next day and the day after and the next month and so on. So there's a lot of comfort feeling and security feeling built into a lot of folks, and that's okay. And for a gig worker, that particular aspect is muted, right? He does work very hard. He or she does work very hard to get his or her next gig, and to perform well and to continue getting more in gig work. So one of the cons for a gig worker would be instability and unpredictability. Um, if you look at from an outsider looking in. But the gig worker, after he or she has gone through one and probably two gigs, he's all set. Now, he or she is not afraid of downtimes, and he knows, you know, he will get that next gig, at a suitable time, and he's mentally very ready. And if you look at the risk factor, and they study this risk factor between a gig worker and a permanent employee, and what they found was the risk factor for a gig worker is far less, because he's able to manage his emotions and financial stability and everything else much more easily than a non-gig worker. So, in essence, if one goes through one or two gigs, then they are well ahead of the game, and they will be more and more successful in their gigs.
Okay, okay, makes sense, makes sense. Now we have another great question here from Arjun. So Arjun, another great question from Arjun. So Arjun says, do you need to have certain experience or highly specialized skills for moving to gig careers? And he adds, in terms of risks and financial stability.
Oh, well, Arjun, I am assuming you're in the IT space. And as I mentioned, any of the in demand roles that exist today, and that's called for in the next 7 years, if you're in that space, you're in a pretty good space already. For someone who is coming into the space, whether he's a new graduate or is transitioning from another career closely related to IT and want to get into IT, then yes, you need to do your homework. You need to understand your own strengths first and how you want to transition into a field that you're going to enjoy the most. For example, if a staffing, I'm just going to throw out a few examples to give an understanding.
Sure.
So if you're in a staffing world and if you want to get into a gig economy, then build a network of your own developers who depend on you, who has tremendous amount of trust on you, whom you can then take and place them in the companies as more and more gig opportunities are going to open up. So you be that independent gig staffer who has 5 or 10 developers or business analysts and so on and so forth. Now, let me throw in another example. If you're a system analyst, which is a pretty general skill and an important role in any IT shops,
Mm.
uh, and if you are looking to transition, then make a segue into the data science side of things. Could be one side, or you can stick on the management consultancy side, which is fine too. But the more lucrative one, as Arjun wanted to know, where's more financial stability and growth, is around the data science. You can become a data analyst and data scientist if you're have the number of years of experience and make that switch and transition into that role. So those are some of the examples, Arjun. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, great response there. And also, would you say, Rakesh, that I guess a great place for maybe Arjun or someone who wants to similarly assess the long term or financial stability of the gig is probably at the interview, right? To get more information about the project. When you have more information about the project, the details, I'm sure you can make the assessment of how long they would potentially need someone to work on this particular gig. Would that be a fair assumption?
Oh, yes, it is. It is a fair assumption. The more you know and the more you learn at that interview stage, the better understanding you have. And if it's your first or second gig. But as you go into few gigs, you do understand how that particular client works or that particular sector works, and you are able to navigate through that system, and you have a better judgment going forward in choosing your next gig.
Okay, fantastic. Now, quick follow up question that I had. Being a recruiter myself, Rakesh. Now, usually in the past, when I have recruited on, for example, contract positions and stuff like that, usually the client's expectation is, hey, we need someone who's ready to hit the ground running. Like we're not gonna, do the whole training thing, and there is not going to be much of a leeway there. Is this the same for these gig roles as well, Rakesh? Like, is the expectation, hey, you have to be able to hit the ground running and get things done?
Absolutely, your read is right on, Dean. Uh, at times, and some companies made the hiring and staffing way complicated than it should be.
Yeah.
And I think many companies are revisiting this process and trying to make it simple. There are many. If you're in the space, so you hear many of the fantastic candidates left behind, while a mediocre candidate gets the opportunity, and there's no perfect answer for that. And the more simpler the organizations make getting in and allowing the consultant, the gig worker, to perform and show his performance, uh, really gives them the best opportunity. And yes, that's one of the expectation is a gig worker is going to come and solve my problem right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so That's absolutely right. And many permanent employees are happy that the gig worker has come with a specialized skill. Yes, there's a need for specialized skill, and there's a premium to be paid for a specialized work.
Yeah.
But if you're a developer trying to fit into a large ML project, then the expectations are far less. But still, the more you perform, the better return for future contracts would be.
Okay,
So,
got you. Got you. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, thanks for clarifying that. So in terms of that whole aspect of things, one more thing I wanted to ask, and sorry if I'm kind of throwing some questions here, but other thing I was thinking, just for our viewers who might be new graduates and kind of new to the profession, Rakesh, my assumption is, given that gig workers are expected to hit the ground running and get things started, should new grads focus on first getting full-time work, getting their experience first before getting into this line of work, or building their own portfolio? Maybe any tips for the new grads?
well, if you look at the what the new grads are doing, they're already ready for gig work,
Okay, okay.
and they're more happy to take on gig work than the old timers
Mhm.
who have got used to the permanency and that zone. If you look at, for example, here in Canada, many of the grads are taking gig work as they're doing their degree, and they are coming out of their university. Their first 5 years are going to be a lot of transition, and getting into gig work gives them that exposure of working for different clients, different technology, different city, different people. So it is going to give them amazing experience to get into gig work for the first 5 years. But they're already excited about getting into the gig work and not get sucked in by the so-called permanent jobs.
Yeah.
More and more university grads like the flexibility of working for X amount of time, for X amount of financial return, and working on their terms. And companies are going to open up for that demand, that request, and companies are responding today. They're willing to work with new grads to see what their work preferences are, and give them work based on their work preference. So I think grads are already in step in the gig economy.
Awesome, awesome, fantastic. Fantastic. Thanks for clarifying that, Rakesh. So, Rakesh, I mean, for those of us who are now, seriously going to be considering this gig economy and considering gig work, can you share some tips and best practices? Like, how can we get set up? Like, how do we get prepared for this?
Well, I'll leave with 3 or 4 suggestions. The first one would be get a great coach.
Mhm.
If you're new to the industry, or you're transitioning from another industry, or a new grad, or you've been at the work for a while and now you're looking to shift, always having a great coach by your side uh, sharpens you, helps you, trains you, educates you, gives you the new perspective, and gives you the background of a certain companies. For example, a bank. If these coaches, for example, if you're um, uh, looking for a job in a bank, these coaches can tell you how does the bank operate, what is their main vision, what do they care for, and how to respond to those questions. For example, again, banking sector, a coach will tell you there are 2 aspects in this particular bank. They have a grow your business theme and run your business theme. A new entrant may not know these insights, and the coaches help you bring that knowledge and experiences, and fine tune yourself to be able to take on that gig work. So having a great coach is number one in my mind. Number two define yourself, right? Like, again, what space do you want to be in, whether it's ML, data science, cloud, RPA, security, networking, data center, uh, front end, back end, database. There's so many aspects of this, and there's so many roles to this, or even project management and product management, another area of mine. So all of these are out there, but define yourself, where is your natural fit, and define your work preferences. Don't be shy to define. I'm willing to take 6 months contract at a time, or 3 months, or a 1 year. I need a minimum of a year. So define your work preferences. Um, and to Arjun's point, if you can develop a deeper skill on one area, uh, y- y- you will have no issues getting that gig. So, for example, if I were to take a telecom industry and you master on either the OSS or the BSS side of things, and you become one of the main experts, and you have done the whole full stack development on one of those areas, then any telecom company, whether in Canada or in the US, will have will have open doors for you, on and will willing to work with you on your terms, right? So developing that specialized skill, learning that deep knowledge of that particular sector, particular client, will really help you in the long run. And lastly, keep an eye on the market. Market keeps changing.
Yeah.
The experts have called out for the next 7 years. These are the areas, but doesn't mean there won't be an oddballs and surprises along the way. So just keep an eye on the market, and keep fine tuning yourself.
Awesome. Love those tips. I especially like the final tip, Rakesh. I mean, it's so important to observe what's happening in the marketplace, right? I mean, it's such an important thing to do. So do your due diligence, folks. Those are some great points that Rakesh shared. So Rakesh, I know that you have taken the initiative to create a great platform called Gigi Worker. So can you let the viewers know more about Gigi Worker? Like, who is it for, and how does it benefit the gig workers?
Yeah, we saw the opportunity and a gap in gig hiring gig workers and finding gig jobs, right? So we wanted to create a paradigm shift in workforce management for gig workers, as well as companies, to come through a common platform where they can do hiring in a faster and a better and a more efficient way. And so we introduced gigiworker.com back in September, and some of the great benefits for um, gig workers is it provides a automated hiring. So there's a 7-step process. Once you sign up and define your role and availability date, to make sure you put in availability date. If you're available 2 months from the down the line, you may get less calls, versus if you are available a month before today, then you may be called more quickly than the others. So make sure to put availability date, and there's a lot of tools to help you manage through your gig career. There will be a coach's corner in the future, where if you're looking for a coach in a particular domain, then you'll be able to find few coaches. It's AI driven, so if you're a front end developer, you get notifications when a gig job posting for a front end developer opens, right into your in basket, so you can be quick to respond. And then there's an automated 7-step process that enables faster hiring for companies. So if you're a gig worker, sign up. It's the platform is free, and you can start finding gigs, and start putting your profile. You can also create your own. Allows you to create your own web page, so you can start socializing with your contacts. And for companies who are looking for gig workers, it's a platform where you can sign up as an employer. It gives a loads of features where you can manage all your gig uh, contract workers in the platform, with with all the resumes and the rates and work preferences, a short video of a personal statement by gig worker and so on. So tremendous features for the employers who are looking to use the platform to hire gig workers.
Awesome, fantastic. So I put the address right there. It's www.giggyworker.com. Make sure you check it out, folks. Free to register, free for gig workers. Register yourself, check it out, and it's a fantastic platform, Rakesh. And again, congrats. I know I already congratulated you, but I think it's a great venture, and it's a great market segment. I think that'll help a lot of people as well. So check out that website, folks, if you want more information, and make sure you check it out. So that being said, Rakesh, as we kind of wrap up the session, for the viewers who want to follow you or connect with you on social media, like what's the best way for people who want to stay in touch with you?
And thank you for that, Dean. I really appreciate it. The best way to connect, if you're looking for help to get your next gig, would be to sign up on giggyworker.com. That way, we look at the list of people who are available, and myself or my team will start working on trying to get the right placements for people. So it's important that you complete your profile and share your personal video and all the personal biodata and curriculum vitae stuff, so that you have a brand to show and target big companies in Canada and other places. And so that's the best way. And the other way is I'm available on LinkedIn. So if you want to chat about something else for employers, if you want to sign up, I'm available on LinkedIn, and there's my numbers and email contacts as well. Either way is fine.
Awesome, fantastic. So folks, make sure you look up Rakesh. Where is it? Yeah, right here. That's his name. Look up his name right there, and you can connect with him on LinkedIn or follow him on LinkedIn if you have more questions, or you wanna follow him for his content as well. So Rakesh, thank you so much. You spent almost an hour with us. You shared so much great, insightful information. I love the statistics you shared, and it's really such a great opportunity. I mean, this whole gig economy and the gig work, and clearly there is a change going on. There is a change going on. There's a certain trend going on, leaning towards these types of positions. So Rakesh, thank you so much for the insightful information. Thanks so much for joining us, and a pleasure as always to speak with you.
Same here, Dean. Thank you so much, and cheers.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone. Everyone have a fantastic day. Thanks, Arjun, for your questions, and everyone for your comments. And everyone have a fantastic week. All right. Bye.
Bye now.